I was about maybe 6 years old, she pulled my pants down and she beat the crap out of me. And I was crying and screaming. I kept saying, I didn't do it. I've been reframing things. Now, some people might call that delusional or lying to yourself, but in my opinion, if it worked, I'm going to use it. If I have to tell myself that, for example, well, the reason he cheated on me was because it's him and he's searching for himself and he can't find himself, or he has a problem with commitment, even though he might have told me, you know, this is not working for me because I don't love you anymore, or I'm not compatible to you. He might say that to me, for example. However, in my mind, I reframe it and tell myself, oh, okay, he's too immature to handle me, or he's not sure what he wants, or he's afraid of commitment. And yeah, it could be a lie. Seriously, in order for me to get through it and to empower and elevate myself, to reframe stuff. So guys, I got to a point in my life where I didn't understand a lot of emotions that were going on inside of me, and I had the yearning to just heal myself. And I would just like to say welcome back to the channel. Now, before we get started, I would like to emphasize that I am not a professional therapist. Everything in this video is based upon research that I have done. Without further ado, let's get started. Now, in this video, I will be discussing a terminology called shadow work. Some people call it the dark side. Now, every human being has a shadow side. I'm going to start off by saying the definition of shadow work. Now, from my research, the definition of shadow work is when you explore the depths of your soul in order to heal and grow. And I had this yearning to do that. Now, some people go seek professional help and they do shadow work with a therapist, which is highly recommended. However, if your circumstances is where you cannot afford it, or you just prefer to do your own shadow work, you can do that also. And that's what I decided to do. I decided to do my own shadow work. Not saying that in the future I might not see a professional, but for right now, this is a good start for me. Now, here's a clue. You might ask yourself, how do I know that I need to do some shadow work? How I knew, or I should say discovered, that I needed to do shadow work was because I was getting a lot of triggers. Now, triggers are words that someone else might say that will trigger something inside of you, some kind of emotional response. It could be anger, insecurity, fear. It could be pain. It could be resentment. Any of the emotions that we consider negative, a lot of times those are emotions that's hidden in your dark side. In order to heal and grow, you need to confront those emotions, because that's basically is what's going to free you. For example, if someone says something and it triggers shame, insecurity, or guilt, this is just an example, within you, that means that you need to do shadow work, because if it stirred up those emotions within you, that means that they exist within your shadow side. So you need to get to the root of it. You need to see why you feel shameful. Why do you feel guilty? Why do you feel insecure? There's a reason for everything. So those are just a few examples to name, and how shadow work helps with when you have those triggers. In addition, our shadow side holds repressed trauma, humiliation, shame. I mean, these things could have happened to you when you were a kid. For example, when I was doing shadow work, something that came up, and it had to happen to me when I was 5 years old. And my God, it came up as if it happened yesterday. And I hadn't thought about that incident for decades. Like, I didn't even remember it until I started doing shadow work. And I'll share the story right now with you guys while it's still fresh in my mind. So I was doing shadow work, and it just like popped out of nowhere. When I was about 5 years old, I went to a private school, and I remember the teacher accusing me of something that I know that I did not do. Because in my household, my parents always taught us to always tell the truth. So it was embedded in me. So when the teacher asked me, did I do, I forget what it was she accused me of. I don't know if she accused me of taking something or she accused me of saying something out loud or back. I just don't remember. So I told her no. All I remember as a child that I know that I did not do that because I was always raised to tell the truth. So I told her no, I didn't do it. So back in the day, guys, when I went to school, when I was a kid, teachers were allowed to reprimand students. So I remember her getting like a pack of rulers, like I should say a stack of rulers about this thick, guys. And I guess I was about maybe 6 years old. She pulled my pants down and she beat the crap out of me. And I was crying and screaming. I kept saying, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. And I just remember saying that I was in so much pain that I finally said to her, I did it. And I remember as a child saying, the only reason I said that I did it because I wanted her to stop. And literally, I could not sit down for a whole week. And guys, mind you guys, this happened decades ago. I couldn't believe that I remembered those little details. It came up when I was doing my shadow work. And I was like, wow. I had no idea that I had buried that so deep in my mind. And apparently it traumatized me because when I went to college, even in high school, I remember that I was always nervous about female teachers. And I think on a subconscious level, even though I didn't think about that incident, I thought about associating pain with women teachers in my mind as a child. And also I think it has something to do with me telling the truth. There was some conflict going on in my psyche that I wasn't aware of because, like I told you, I was raised to tell the truth. But as a child, I remember, okay, when I told the truth, it caused me a lot of pain. So I'm not sure if that's the correct thing to do. So it caused a lot of conflict within my psyche on a subconscious and a conscious level. Now, mind you, none of this came up until I started doing shadow work. I didn't even know that incident was still in my mind. It's totally crazy. That's why I wanted to make this video, because I'm like, okay, if this can help me, this can help other people too. If you don't do shadow work, it can cause you to doubt yourself a lot. And sometimes I do doubt myself, and I wasn't sure where that was coming from. And also it said that in addition to doubting yourself, it can cause you not to go after what you really want in life. So it can create procrastination on a whole nother level. And you might be wondering, like, why am I not doing what I know I need to do in order to get this result? And you have no idea. It's because something that's going on in your subconscious mind that maybe happened when you were a child that caused you to procrastinate or doubt yourself. It's just, oh God, guys, it's just so much information. It's so fascinating, this whole shadow work, dark side. Yeah, it has been building my self-confidence. Now, for the most part, I've always been a self-confident person, but you know, we all have our insecurities and our moments of weakness, and I'm right there too. I can totally relate. But I noticed that I have been strengthening my self-confidence because of shadow work, because I'm going to the core, the origin of like these insecurities and these negative belief systems, and I'm seeing how they basically were planted in my mind from my experiences. And so basically I'm shedding light on them and I'm digging them up. And if something I don't like, I've decided to reframe them. I'm reframing them in order to serve me. So I don't know if that's what you should do in shadow work. I think I did read that somewhere. Or I don't know what they do professionally, like if you go to a therapist, but I've decided that, you know what, if something exists, an insecurity, a fear, a judgment, I don't like it, I don't want it to represent myself, I'm reframing it. And when I say reframing it, I'm changing it to fit how I needed to work for me. For example, if I had an insecurity that, well, I actually was teased about my height because I was always tall. And I remember as a child, I always wanted to be short because I was always teased to be, teased because I was tall. But, of course, as you grow up and you learn to start loving yourself, it's like, you know what? I love being tall. A lot of people would love to be tall too. So I'm going to embrace what God gave me. God made me tall. So I'm going to love that. But as you guys know, that it takes time to get to that point. You know what I mean? And that comes with self-confidence and self-growth and self-development. And it also comes with doing shadow work too. By not doing shadow work or exploring your dark side, you can develop some destructive behavior. For example, you can become a procrastinator, which I am guilty of that. Or I should say was. Also, you can develop eating disorder, like stress eating, where you're just eating when you know you're not hungry, and that's something I developed too. I thought it was like a nervous condition. I thought I had anxiety until I did my research, and it said that that's a destructive behavior of your dark side. Basically not doing shadow work and getting to the core of it. What else? Stress eating, binge eating. They also stress that that's also a form of destructive behavior. And a couple other things that I can't think of off the top of my head. And guys, I do want to emphasize, when something triggers you, take heed to that. Like, really observe that emotion, because that's going to give you a glimpse into your subconscious and let you know what's buried inside. So it's important to really pay attention to those trigger words, trigger signs, experiences, because that means that you need to heal there. I'm still on my shadow journey. I don't know how long it's going to be. It might be for the rest of my life. But I just feel like I'm on the right track, and I'm excited about it, and I love how it's making me feel so far. In my research, it said that there are 3 important questions that you should ask yourself when you're working on your dark side shadow work. Number 1, list certain patterns or behavior that you do not like about yourself. Write those down. For example, I might write down, like, sometimes what I don't like about myself. I don't like about myself that I can be very impatient. I mean, little things like that. That's just an example, but you just go through your own list and write things down that you don't like about yourself. Number 2, write down your fears and insecurities. Now, you might not be aware of all of your fears and insecurities, but the ones that you do know of, write those down. And as you do more and more shadow work, they will appear, and believe me, they're going to show their little head and let you know their presence. And number 3, you should ask yourself, what are you ashamed of? Like, are there different qualities about yourself or things that you've done in the past that you're ashamed of and that you perhaps buried in your subconscious mind? These are things that you have to address, and I'm actually working through those things myself too. And the shadow work is not easy, but you know what? The payoff is going to be beautiful. So guys, there's a list of items that you should come to terms with when you're doing shadow work. So I wrote those down. I will be reading those because I just wanted to make sure they were accurate. So number 1, always observe yourself. For example, if you're engaged in an activity, or you say something, or you do something, ask yourself, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Always try to be observing yourself, because observing oneself is the key to mastering one's mind. Number 2, become non-judgmental towards yourself. Don't judge yourself. Okay? If you say something, if you do something, try not to judge yourself. Maybe after you do it, go home and just examine it, or try to understand why you made that decision to do that. And don't judge it, just try to understand it. And then what I love about shadow work, it teaches you to be gentle to yourself, because it's important. We already live in a world where everyone can be judgmental of each other, so especially on the internet. So you want to be as compassionate to yourself as possible. Number 3, you can work with a professional or do it yourself in shadow work. I believe I said that earlier. So that choice is up to you. Meditate. And my meditations are great because a lot of times my meditations do bring out things that I didn't even know were inside of me. So it really enhances my shadow work, and it helps me to get to the core issues. The next item is journaling. Get yourself a journal notebook. So you can write things down. That really helps. It helps to free your mind. It says whenever toxic things come up, write them down. It's because that's a doorway into your subconscious, and that's how you're going to understand what's in your mind, and hopefully just shed light on it, confront it. You can reframe it or just accept it. If it's something you don't like about yourself, just reframe it. Reframe it to support you in a positive way, because that's how you grow. You can go to a therapist and have past life regression therapy. That's also supposed to help with doing shadow work. We're all on this journey. I believe that's why we're all here. I believe that we're all here in order for our spirits to grow and for us to understand ourselves, because I feel like each and every one of us, no matter good, bad, ugly, what have you, we're all an expression of God, and therefore we need to understand ourselves. And once we understand ourselves, we're basically understanding that aspect of God, because we're all God's creation. To me, I look at it like we're all a puzzle. We're all a puzzle that's being put together. And while we're on this journey called life, yeah, I might be a puzzle within my own body, but eventually we all come together as the huge puzzle, and I believe that's the puzzle of the universe. And therefore, that's why I decided that I wanted to heal myself inside, because I felt like something was holding me back from being who I truly am. I felt like I wasn't taking enough risk in my life, and I just couldn't pinpoint like why I was feeling this way, why I would procrastinate, why sometimes I would wake up depressed. And it's all because things that's going on in my subconscious mind that I wasn't even aware of. I will continue this whole series on shadow work because I find it so fascinating. We can all do shadow work together. That would be so cool. And yeah, so leave your comments below if you have questions or concerns, or you just want to make a statement. I love that. Okay, so I will see you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.